Hello, friends. Host Eric here. Host Talking to Famous People. I'm here with Sauce, Ukraine Elaine, Kato, St. Jacob, not host Mark, and Anthony. And I want to talk about different cultures expressing different varieties of personality type as the driving force behind their cultural expression. For example, I was thinking today that Japanese culture, seems a very NFJ culture. It's very highly stylized FE expectations and narratives of the individual that are part of a larger social narrative rather than part of an individual expression of self. There's very little expression of self in traditional Japanese culture anyway. Now, in contrast, you look at a culture like Germany, that's much more NTJ, STJ. You might say XTJ. Um, it can be very effective in its sort of TE thing it's got going on, but it can also prioritize the protocols above the outcomes, which is a bit of an ESTJ thing, as evidenced in Nazi Germany. Um, Now, if you look at the Enlightenment, quote unquote, in other words, the emergence of the West and American culture, namely our Constitution and that whole process, this I'd say the American constitutional process is one of the only NTP expressions of uh, nationhood or cultural unity. In that, at least the Constitution, not necessarily the way culture expresses itself in America, but the Constitution itself is extremely NTP. It's very logical. It's very principle driven and distrustful of authority. Now, if you look at something like native peoples, like if you go to some Amazon jungle tribe, or you go to some island nation where people are still living kind of in the bush a little bit or something. Well, those cultures are obviously SFP cultures, and the reason they're able to be SFP cultures is because they're people, their culture developed in an environment that produced for them pretty much everything they needed, so that any extra efforts were kind of unnecessary. That indulged the SFP way. And lastly, I'll say, as far as cultures go, I was thinking a lot about China versus Taiwan and Russia. So if you look at old Soviet Russia, that's and Russia in general, I think, is this textbook expression of NFP culture. Sauce's people made Russia. Marx is the quintessential NFP disastrous attempt at TI, which turns into TE. You know, um, and no offense, Sauce. Anyway, the other thing is that
Maybe I'll take it.
China, though, in contrast, is much more SFJ. SFJ version of communism, whereas Russia in general, communism and post-communism is very NFP. It's very artistic and intellectual in a way that's kind of fatalistic and FI driven. There's not a whole bunch of like elaborate FE ceremonies with Russia, and yet it's kind of intellectual and it's kind of shady too, and it's got that NE FI thing going on. Anyway, and then communist China, like I said, is more SFJ. SFJs took over. ESFJs took over and said, we're gonna make this work somehow. We're not gonna worry about being logically consistent or anything. We don't really care that much about the dogma. We want to make sure everybody saves face. Everybody's respectful of hierarchy. Nobody ever gets anything accomplished. There's no TE and there's very little TI. It's just mostly FESI. Well, this is how we did it before. This is how we're going to do it again because everyone has to look good. Taiwan, on the other hand, is much more like um, Taiwan is kind of it's kind of Alpha Quadra mix. I've been to Taiwan and it's pretty merry place. It's got a certain principlist NTP quality to it, but it's much more SFJ. But the rest much more SFJ than America. But the rest of the Quadra is much more represented in Taiwan's culture than it is in China's. Uh, yeah, so there you go. There you have it. Uh, I guess you could say Canada is NFJ. Very polite, liked by everybody. Everybody thinks they're wise and have good public policy, even when they don't. Everyone admires their healthcare system, even when it's shitty. And that's textbook INFJ. So, thoughts, anybody? Everybody?
I don't know. I was thinking about it the other day. I thought Canada was more NFP, but maybe
Just
not.
because you like
I didn't really
Canada.
think about
See?
the policies and stuff. Yeah,
Hey,
yeah,
Sauce,
exactly.
that's textbook NFJ shit. They're gonna make you think that their good thing is just like you. They're gonna be
Tricky
like, that
bunch of bastards.
they are, they're tricky. They're tricky as fuck.
It's how they get you. It's how they get you.
Yeah. And like Mexico is like ISFJ culture. I mean, they're hardworking, but they're also kind of like mañana, mañana. I don't really feel like it.
Yeah,
Uh,
siestas.
yeah. Any other comments? Oh, Muslims.
Ugh.
What about Muslims? What are we gonna say about Muslim culture? Well, Muslim culture, I would say, is E ENFJ married to ESTJ. It's it's like here's my singular vision of truth. And here's how we're going to force everybody to go along with it, no matter how little sense it makes.
uh, my ex was ENFJ. I've got no problem with
Yeah.
that.
So that's my reduction of the world to certain kinds of types and cultures. India. What about India? It's kind of
I don't
like
know. They're
it's a
kind of type
weird mix.
nines at least.
Yeah, it's a weird mix of
Yeah, kind of shat on by
ISFP,
everybody else, right?
ISFP, INTJ, and INTP. It's a weird mix of those three things. What about Scandinavian countries like Norway and Sweden? Well, Sweden's definitely NFP, doing crazy ass stupid shit but I really, really feel strongly about it. Norway's a little bit more like NTP, but like the stupid INTP kind who are bleeding hearts. Um,
Yeah.
and then let's see, what other Scandinavian? Oh, Denmark. What about Finland? I don't
Finland
know
are
any.
just a bunch of crazy fuckers. So they're just weird people there. They've got severe problems with personal contact and being around each other, but then they get all into like close in together naked in saunas. Like, what is with that? Like, I've never understood Finnish people. They're fucking crazy. They're fun though.
STP, SFP, the Finns. Can't take them anywhere. The Mongols, STP for sure. ESTP. Genghis Khan was an ESTP for sure. Okay,
Ukraine's
well,
ESP.
he might be an ESFP, I guess. Genghis Khan could have been an ESFP, but either way, probably ESFP because if you read his quotes, it's so like, as this is how I like it, this is what I want, and everything else must follow my will.
It was pretty big on like freedom of religion and freedom of culture and stuff like that. Actually, so you know, he wasn't altogether that bad a guy. He's
Who is
pretty
this
bad, but
model that's
could
walked
have been
into the
worse.
garage? There she is, ready for holiday pictures. We're taking holiday pictures today.
I see.
class? You want to come and be in our holiday photo?
You're going to have to take a really fast flight.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's going to bring to a close this exciting episode of Talking with Famous People, in which we discussed the different cultures of the world and the way they express the wrongness of their respective types.
Isn't that a Tyler Perry video?
No. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to eat plenty of cheese, y'all.